brands like Unilever or brand like P&G, they took nearly 10 to 15 years to kind of build a brand.
Yeah. So my personal take is that, जो दिखता है वो बिकता है, right? Today's, Gen Zs, they really care about sustainability and they really care about the environment.
Today, I have with me someone who has created a successful D2C brand, has been on Shark Tank, and has created a D2C strategy which has been successful for last 8 years. She has seen the ups and downs of how an internet-based company is established. Let's jump into the right strategy to create a brand in the online first world. Welcoming on board Tanya Dirasaria. Hi Tanya.
Hi Akshay, how are you?
I'm good, and it's been a long time. But I think we go back like 15 years now.
Yeah.
But this journey of you creating a brand, I think that has fascinated me. And I think the way you have built a company just after your stint at Myntra, right? And creating something which has been so frugal. I think that's the right word, because you
Yes.
have done it in such a frugal manner. And I wanted to kind of decode that for everyone, that how can you really today create a brand by not having resources which you required in the past? And that is where I wanted your story to come up.
So, to be honest, it feels a little strange from being friends to fellow entrepreneurs. We've come a long way, I would say. And this is one of those conversations that I'm really looking forward to, because never in the last 15 years of knowing you, I'd ever thought that we will be sitting like this in a studio and discussing D2C strategies. Like we've done a lot of fun adventures together. We've done college assignments, we've done business plans, business projects, and now we are here discussing this. So it's a very, very special moment for me. And like you said, the venture that I've built, Zoe, it's completely bootstrapped. And yes, we've built it in a very frugal way. And a lot of things go into building a venture like this. I would love to discuss all of that in detail with you. So let's begin.
Perfect. When you basically thought of this idea of creating a market, like what are the first steps you need to understand of, is this the right market, or how do you place yourself when you are starting up?
So, in my experience, I've come across two types of founders. There's one set of people who say that I'm very passionate about a particular cause and I'm going to solve for that. And then there's a second set of founders who say that I just want to build something. They don't have very passionate purpose they're looking at. And in the end, both the types of founders, if they have the right kind of strategy, the right kind of vision, the right kind of problem that they're trying to solve, emerge as winners. In my case, the idea and the inspiration for Zoe came from my personal lifestyle. Before Zoe, I was working with Reliance Industries and I was working with Myntra. And during both my stints, I was a corporate slave and I had a very, very hectic lifestyle, because of which I could see my health kind of degenerating from my college days to my professional life. And then I would myself go to a lot of detox centers once in a while to kind of get back into shape. So from there, I got this idea that, why don't I start a brand where I'm helping modern working professionals take care of their lifestyle related health issues in a better way, in which they don't have to do much to kind of change their current lifestyle and they're able to kind of focus on their health. So that's how Zoe started. Having said that, when you're starting a brand, it's important for you to have a very, very important problem that you're trying to solve. Like the one thing that you should ask yourself is that what pain of the customer am I trying to solve? And what is my customer going to gain by buying my product? And this has to be very, very strong. The cause behind your product has to be very strong. And then, of course, a D2C brand is not built in a single day. At Zoe also, we pivoted to different use cases, different products, different marketing strategies to finally establish ourselves. However, you should be very clear about the pain and the gain. That's a very, very important question that you need to ask yourself.
Can you just detail out on how does that pain and gain sit in the equation? Because what I understand from the conversation is that there has to be a driving
Yeah.
cause. Like
Yeah.
a driving cause would be something which basically makes you feel that this is a problem, if solved,
Yeah.
could create a lot of value.
Yes.
Is what I understand.
Yes.
So how do you kind of equate this pain and gain? Like, is it a evolution, or is it like you are doing every step by some measurement on pain and gain?
So I think it's an evolution. When I started Zoe, I just wanted our customers to lead a healthy lifestyle. And how I started it was we launched with a set of cold pressed juices. And my theory was that modern working professionals are very nutrition deficient. And that's why I wanted to create products which were helping them meet their micronutrients and macronutrients requirement for the whole week. But when we launched, I realized that customers don't care about this. Like, customers are not looking at products which are improving their lifestyle. They are looking at end results. So, during our journey, then customers started giving us feedback saying that our products are helping them lose weight. So then we got this insight that why don't we become a weight loss company? And then our entire product portfolio, our communication, our marketing strategy, our sales strategy, everything started kind of getting focused towards that end goal, which our customers were experiencing from the use of our products. And that led to the birth of our detox, which became one of the most sought after products at one point, and which helped us in kind of really growing our revenue. So yeah, it's very important in a D2C brand to listen to your consumers, have constant have a very good survey mechanism, so you're gathering all the consumer insights at every touch point of the customer, and then after listening to them, their pain points, what they are experiencing from our products, what the benefits are, you continue to evolve your products.
Like, what has changed in the ecosystem that a lot of brands are cropping up and are becoming successful, right? We have great success stories in the D2C world now. But what has that pivotal change happened in the last 10-15 years, which has led to this growth of D2C vertical altogether?
Okay. So I think at a very macro level, I think one change is that today's generation is very, very open to taking risks. That whole mindset which our traditionally our parents have been upbringing us with, that, after you have to do your graduation, uske baad MBA karna hai, then you have to work, save, and then build a house.
Yeah.
So that whole mindset has changed. Today's millennials and Gen Zs, they want to do something bigger than that, and they want like a better purpose to their life. So it starts from that, like at a macro level. And then when we move further to the last 10 years, the scenario has also changed. Like when I started my D2C brand 8 years ago, then the tools which were available in the market were very limited. However, today it's very easy. Like, the entire playbook for launching a D2C brand is available online. All the top companies, VC funds and all are sharing this data. So you can actually launch a D2C brand in just 3 months, right? This was not the case earlier. And this is encouraging more and more people to start up today, especially in the D2C space. One major thing which has happened in the last 3 years is COVID, right? So COVID forced a lot of businesses to shut down, and it forced a lot of businesses to rethink their strategy. And post COVID, the number of D2C brands which have come up has been exponential, and even today we see the impact of that, right? Like earlier there were brick and mortar stores which were just selling through their shop, but those stores also have been nudged to go online post COVID, and because of all the enablers that are available in the market.
Now, I'm just thinking of it from an angle of consumer insight. Like, what has been the consumer shift in the last 10-15 years? I think internet is obviously becoming more and more accessible. That is one. But is there any behavioral shift which you see which has really led to D2C becoming a success phenomenon?
Yeah. So to answer this question, I'm going to talk about a few of my customers. I'm working on launching a new brand. So I was talking to a few of my old customers, and I was just asking them that, I'm launching a new brand. Now you trust Zoe, but this new brand of mine, the first time that you see it, there will be zero ratings, zero reviews, zero influencers who will be talking about it. So what will make you buy my product? So she said that word of mouth. If a trusted friend or relative of mine is going to tell me that I have tried this product and it works, I'm going to just close my eyes and buy this. So I think this is a very, very big shift that is happening in the D2C space. Customers today know that reviews and ratings are important, but a lot of times customers know the difference between authentic reviews and ratings, which they see on Amazon, Flipkart, Myntra, so on and so forth, versus the fake ones, right? So, along with influencer marketing, along with improving your ratings and reviews, it's also very important to focus on word of mouth. So, and I think that this is going to be a big driver in the days to come. Like, customers don't just want like a creator led or celebrity led endorsement. That's not enough. They don't want just reviews and ratings. That's not enough. They would want to see a better word of mouth. They would want to see more of, purchases being made through a reference, so to say.
That has been something which is consistent
Yeah.
over the period of time.
Yeah.
And to my understanding is that reviews, ratings,
Yeah.
and the whole influencer play
Yeah.
is all kind of playing to the
Yeah.
to the fact that it is creating some word of mouth or just some tangible way of building word of mouth, even if your like your neighbor or your friend has not referred it. I think referral is the strongest play, and I think there is what I take from this is that there has to be a very strong referral strategy when you're doing any digital marketing.
Correct.
Because if you don't have that, you kind of lose out on a lot of free marketing which you get, right?
Yeah.
And people want to talk about a good product. It's just that they don't have the right tools to talk about it.
Yeah.
Going back, I think going slightly back on this is actually an evolution that we come to referral. I think just talking about like brands like Unilever or brand like P&G, they took nearly 10 to 15 years to kind of build a brand.
Yeah.
Right? Like any brand which was built, even if they acquired it, it was built over a longer period of time. Now, that cycle has suddenly reduced, that suddenly shrinked, right?
Yes.
How is digital empowering that? How is digital as a medium empowering the change in the whole ecosystem so that brands can be built faster? And that's why I think D2C is becoming strongly viable, because if you have to kind of pour in money for 10 years, I think most of the entrepreneurs will say like this is not something which we want to do. But today, like in 4 or 5 years, you can build a brand which is actually gonna become a IPO. I think that is a possibility now. So so just talking about this phenomena of how digital is empowering brand have a faster growth and become recognizable in a very quick manner.
Yeah. So, like we should talk about Mamaearth. It's one of the most celebrated brands of today. They launched, I think 7-8 years ago, and today they are doing 1,000 crores in revenue, which is like a big number.
Yeah.
And so I'll talk about some of the things which they did, which may help our listeners. So initially, I think when they started, they were very bullish about listening to the voice of the consumer. So their strategy was always digital first, and they made sure that they were getting insights from the customers, and and they managed the inventory and their product launches in such a way that if customers liking something, they would scale up the distribution, and products which were not doing well, they would kind of sunset it very soon.
Sure.
Right? So that's an important thing which D2C helps us to do.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to, like the olden times when you would have to create lakhs of inventory and distribute it all over the country. That whole cycle has been reduced to a couple of months. Like you actually get real time data on how your products are performing, and then you can take decisions based on that. So that's important. The second thing is, of course, the power of social media. So if it's very easy today to actually communicate your brand's values to the customers and build that brand affinity. So a lot of the big brands of today use storytelling as a very, very powerful medium. And I'll give you the example of My Muse. It's a sexual wellness brand, and they are selling vibrators, but they are doing it in such an interesting way, right? So their latest campaign was about this girl who is single, and there's Cupid who comes and says ki you want a life partner, and she said no, I don't need one because I'm happy single because I have My Muse, right? So it's an interesting way to kind of tell your story. So brands these days are doing this. If you look at Zomato, right? So Zomato, if you go on the Instagram, if you go on their Facebook page, you'll see that they are engaging with the consumers like they are chuddy buddies, right? So, like they are not preachy. They just have memes as their marketing. They say all these funny things. So it's an interesting way for them to do storytelling. If you look at maybe Mamaearth today, like they just want to talk about the quality of their products and how it's so authentic, so amazing, that it's the best for you and your baby. So essentially, brands are today engaging in very, very powerful and very, very emotional storytelling, which is helping the consumers connect with them in a better way. And that I think is the way to move forward if you want to build a very strong D2C brand.
No, I think the two great points which come out of this. I think one is the whole like the 4 Ps which we kind of work on in marketing, right? The product, price, placement also in this sense. So I think the most important is that product innovation or the product market fit is determined very quickly. And both going on shelf and off shelf is kind of very quick. I think that is one thing which has really changed the pace at which you can grow in a D2C domain. I think Mamaearth, you rightly said the example of Mamaearth, because Mamaearth now has, I think, a very broad category of products which they are serving. To achieve that category in conventional days would have taken maybe like 30 years to kind of build that category, because you would just go with one category like a face wash, and then they kind of work on that for 10 years, 5 years to kind of build that brand, and then eventually launch one more product very, very secretly and then kind of work around that. So I think that is one which is a great insight. I think the second one which you are talking about creating very crafted communication for your target audience, right? You don't need to be catering like the My Muse campaign which you're mentioning. It might not work as a broad scale campaign, right? But if you're doing it in a very targeted way to single girls who are in a certain age band, have a certain interest, who have a certain profile, right? For them, it works. And it would not have that big a backlash also, right? So you kind of be very accurate in if you're targeting the right person. And because people are so different, like, I think there is acceptance now with internet that every person has a different way of consuming content. Every person has their own preferences, and you cannot have a one formula kind of work for everyone kind of an approach in communication. So I think that is very right. I think there are two great points. One more thing which I want to understand from you is when you talk about the product part of it, you talk about the communication part of it, right? And finally, like when you talk about how the distribution really works, right? Is digital distribution also a differentiator today? Like, is that really making things faster, or it's still not there? Like, it's still not there.
If you're talking about D2C, you can only grow up to a certain level, right? Like if you're a D2C brand, you can, you can go from 0 to 1. So 0 to 1, I would say, is like you start with a 1 crore sales to a 100 crore sales, right? But if you want to go from 1 to 100, you have to be offline as well. Like because D2C also comes with its own sets of limitation. Like with D2C, you can't reach everybody. Even today, all of India is not shopping online. Plus, if your brand, if your target audience is a certain age group, like maybe above 40 or above 50, they may not be consuming everything online, right? So if you really want to build a very, very large brand, you have to look at distribution. So today, if you look at brands like Mamaearth, like it's doing maybe 1,000 crores of sales every year. But according to me, maybe 700 crore is coming from offline channels. If you look at brands like Sugar Cosmetics, Cosmetics, they are doing around 300 to 400 crores of sales annually.
Yeah.
But 60% of that is coming from offline.
Yeah.
Even if you look at health and wellness, there are brands like Muscle Blaze doing 500 crore revenue. But, 60-70% of the revenue is coming from offline. So D2C has a certain limitation. It is an enabler. It gives you that head start. You're able to get better consumer insights. You're able to, get customer acceptance faster. But if you actually want to go from like maybe 1 to 100, you have to be offline. D2C is not the most successful strategy if you want to build something very big.
Now, I want to flip this question and
Mhm.
understand.
Uh-huh.
One part is about creating a supply
Yeah.
or creating a distribution, which
Yeah.
is offline and online, both,
Mhm.
right? And I completely align with you when you say that offline distribution is important because eventually touch points for different markets are different, right?
Yeah.
It cannot, for maybe a specific market, it could be purely online, like maybe food ordering is something which is becoming very online today, right? But when we move from distribution to communication, right?
Yeah.
Can a brand be made completely on digital media? If that is something we want to discuss, like can we create a complete brand on digital media?
Yes, of course. So, I mean, you're talking mainly in terms of the marketing and advertisement.
Yeah.
So, yes, you can say that you can create a brand completely online, but eventually to do sales, you'll have to look at offline. Like let's say if you're building a brand of maybe toffees, right? Or chocolates, like products which have like a lower average order value, like maybe 10 rupees or 100 rupees. So you can't really sell that online because the cost of shipping is always going to be higher. So for those categories, you have to look offline. Coming to your question, if you just talk about digital first, you can have that as your approach, like just have a digital first approach when it comes to reaching out to the customer. But I think that also may reach some saturation level at some point, because there are a lot of consumers who are still on TV, like they are watching a lot of prime time shows, they are watching news, right? So if you want to establish yourself as a household brand, then it's important to today look at traditional channels like TV and radio.
So when you talk about distribution, I think offline is a great route to be in because offline really opens up the channel,
Yeah.
and I think it really helps in removing those acquisition cost of a customer,
Yeah.
right? But if we just move to creating a complete brand online,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
when we look at creating a brand which is purely made through digital communication, right? Is that a possibility?
So I think it's not a possibility, it's the reality of today, right? Like, if we talk about brands like Sugar Cosmetics or Nykaa, all of their marketing and advertisement is happening online. And then they have physical stores to kind of support the sales. So a lot of the big brands today are approaching a digital first strategy, which means that they spend 90% of their marketing budget digitally, and the digital is driving their sales to their offline store. So that is actually the reality of today.
Any specific categories where you think that online would work better versus an offline, and there are some categories where offline obviously would work better, like FMCG. I think still consumer goods which are very low price tickets. There maybe an offline route also works as compared to any other categories where you think online would work and offline would kind of not work, and the other way around. So offline would work better than the online. I think you rightly pointed out. So based on the reports also, I think cosmetics and beauty, I think 27% of the market is now primarily digitally sold. So in e-commerce also, I think this is the category which is growing the fastest. I think food and beverage, which you kind of are focusing on, is nearly 25%, and it's being the highest growth business in the D2C vertical. So I think that is great. Alongside, I think there's electronics, because a lot of brands are now being built completely online.
Yes.
Like examples of Lifelong or
Correct.
for example Lifelong, and there are multiple other brands which are purely. I think Boat is one of the biggest
Exactly.
example in consumer marketing who has focused a lot on
Hmm.
online,
Hmm.
though they have done a lot of offline also. But I think online marketing has been a
Yeah.
very strong motivator for them.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, there are brands like Snitch which are doing 100 crore revenue every year,
Yeah.
and they are purely online.
Yeah.
So fashion again is a very, very
Yeah.
emerging category.
Yeah.
We can look at categories like perfumes as well, which are doing very well online.
Yeah.
In fact, any creator-led brand, influencer-led brand, those are doing very, very well online.
Right.
Yeah.
And coming to that point, I think creator-led brand is something which I wanted to discuss with you because you have just championed the way how UGC content review works, right? And I think that has been one of the key drivers of your
Yeah.
business. So what is the right strategy to build a UGC based brand? And what should a brand be looking at UGC as a way of creating a dent or not?
So, like I mentioned earlier, these days a word of mouth is big. And if you want to build customer trust, you need to have that element in your brand. And so is this whole UGC led marketing and influencer marketing. Now, this is important for all the brands. However, the way you approach it will depend on what category you're selling. And again, like I mentioned, what actually is the pain point of your customer that you're trying to solve. In our case, in Zoe, we were selling weight loss. And so essentially, we wanted to tell our customers that if you use our products, then you'll lose weight. Now, here, trust is very important, right? And for trust, a customer also knows that if a celebrity or like a very popular influencer is endorsing a product, it could be a paid collaboration as well. So we focused only on the real customers. And all our communication over the last 8 years has just been this: real customers, real results. And we actually, we had set up this entire system where we would get in touch with our customers on a regular basis, and customers who had actually lost weight, we would ask them to share their before after images, and we would show that to our future customers, and that strategy worked for us. So ours was genuine user generated content, and all the customers who lost weight were happy to do this, happy to become our brand ambassadors. Now, for maybe a fashion brand, more than user generated content, like influencer led content will work more, because fashion is aspirational. So you want to see like very good looking people kind of buying the product. So in case of fashion, I would say you go with influencers. If you are looking at categories like beauty, you might want to look at maybe movie stars. And that's why like there's a brand called K by Katrina. It's a makeup brand, and it's doing amazing. I think they're doing like 3 to 400 crore every year as sales. There's a brand by Priyanka Chopra called Anomaly, and they are doing, I think, 5,000 crores of sale. I mean, this is in Indian rupees. So yes, I mean, this is the way to go. The reason why customers are buying from these brands is because they are seeing a very popular face whom they trust use the product or endorse the product, and that's where that trust is getting generated in the brand.
There is a movement where more and more brands have to become themselves influencers. Like they have to kind of come out, and the world of secrecy of a brand is now getting over, because a lot of brands are built on secrecy, right? So is that getting over, or is it going to have still that could be an ambush strategy? Someone can try that. I'm secret. I'm not on social media. Now that's me as a brand.
So my personal take is that, जो दिखता है वो बिकता है, right? You have to be out there. Like if you're a brand about which nobody has really heard, then, customer will also be a little hesitant to try it out. So visibility for the brand is definitely important. However, if your product is so good that it will automatically generate word of mouth, and it will automatically encourage repeat buying behavior, then maybe you need to kind of focus less on the brand building bit. For example, we can talk about the Whole Truth, right? It's a very, very successful brand. However, they essentially, their whole motto is that they are making authentic food products, and they want to bring back the consumer's trust in the food that we are consuming. So the brand is purely built on storytelling and authenticity, and they spend very less on marketing. And once a customer has bought their product, they've bought the brand, and now the customer doesn't need any constant reminder or advertisement to buy from the brand again. So yes, if your brand is genuinely very good,
Yeah.
if you have a very strong story, if you're authentic, then yes, you can build yourself without too much noise in the.
So I'm just thinking of it from the first point of
Hmm.
contact, right?
Mhm.
If I don't know about the whole truth,
Yeah.
I don't know about their promise, I don't
Yeah.
know about what their story is,
Mhm.
I would consider them as another bar, right?
Yeah.
Another energy bar which
Yeah.
is there in the market, and there are so many.
Yeah.
So to create like the first impression,
Mhm.
you need to have some digital marketing effort,
Yeah.
or need to have your communication out in some way, right?
Yeah.
What do you think are the key categories
Mhm.
which will become D2C heavy?
Mhm.
Not, we have discussed a few, but I think the ones which are still dark horses,
Mhm.
and people should work on those directions. Like which categories you think will be the shiners in the
Mhm.
next 2 to 3 years?
Mhm. So I think two categories which have become very, very cluttered is health and wellness and beauty and personal care.
Yeah.
This is because it's very, very easy today to launch these brands. Like all the manufacturers are easily available. The playbook for the entire launch is easily accessible to everyone. So these are very cluttered market. One segment which I think is upcoming is fashion, because Western fashion in India today is 6 lakh crores, right? It's a huge market with an undying appetite. And I think that the brands today have a lot of opportunity in this segment. And there are so many brands like Snitch, Urban Monkey, Human, and Bewakoof, the Soul Store, Campus Sutra. All of these brands are, doing revenues of more than 100 crores a year, and they are just growing. So I think that fashion and accessory is a very, very big market, which is completely uncharted, and there's a huge scope here. Basically, our fashion is something which like people just want.
It's
Yeah. Also, currently 52% of India's population is Gen Z and millennials. So any product which appeals to the Gen Z and millennial, that has huge scope. So that's something we should focus on. And having said that, another insight is that today's, Gen Zs, they really care about sustainability and they really care about the environment. So any brand which is kind of focusing on that, or brands which have very, very strong ethics or core values, are going to do very well in the future. So anything to do with sustainable fashion, sustainable travel is going to do very well.
That first thing is that we are bringing a lot of practical exercises, and I'll give you an example of practical exercises. So first one is like you will you will be creating we will create a simulated digital agency kind of a atmosphere. So basically, a brief will come from the brand directly. The company, the team will be divided into five individuals, and they will work as planners. They will work as executors. Like they will work as a team to create a digital agency kind of a work, and then they will finally execute or give a plan. And if they get 20-30% of those modules to execute, they execute that. Right? Second is that we will create so basically they will run their own D2C brands, or like e-commerce. So basically it's called the e-commerce accelerator. So basically they will run an e-commerce store, and they will achieve a certain amount of revenue out of it. That will be and they will have their own online store and kind of run through that, right? Third one is that they will do a neighborhood consultation solution, something like that. Name bhul gaya main, but I think that is the crux of it. They will go to a neighborhood store and they will help in their digital problems. So something like just simple as setting up their Google page, or setting up getting up their more reviews, right? Getting more reviews for them, getting a strategy how they can create a QR code based system, something like that, right? So that is the third one, or enabling WhatsApp marketing for them, right? So that could be that. The fourth one is about B2B marketing. So basically, what they will do is they will become a B2B affiliate for a certain product. So supposedly, they become an affiliate for Shopify. Let's just take an example. They will create content. They will become the face of that brand, and they will sell that to people or generate leads for Shopify. on a landing page,
Hmm.
and whatever leads they generate, basically they qualify for an affiliate program from a certain B2B brand.
Yeah.
So these are like some practical exercises which we're designing. So and we're doing two verticals majorly. One is purely like e-commerce focused,
Yeah.
right? And one is purely B2B focused.
Yeah.
So we want to create people who are in e-commerce and B2B. So this is like vertical centric course rather than having a generic course on digital marketing. We want to do vertical centric course. After 6 weeks of their preparation, they will learn the fundamentals in 6 weeks, and then they will be selected into one of the specializations, either e-commerce or B2B. And then we have the experts. So we have experts from every domain, right? And the fourth one is that basically we are offering them a placement guarantee. So if they don't get placed, we cannot return that money. So these are the four essential key points of digital.